Welcome. Tonight's program will dive deep into fringe knowledge of lost, hidden, and suppressed truths about the nature of our reality. The decoding process can be uncomfortable and at times frightening. However, you are not alone on this journey of understanding. Welcome to the Shadow Band Podcast.
I hate the layout change that they did on Riverside. You have to like manually put it to this mode. It bothers me. Aggravates me.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's frustrating, bro. We need to get off this platform.
I didn't know that.
Need to get off this platform. Once I finally move into the old RV, I'm gonna set up a whole new situation. We could switch to OBS or Streamlabs or something and just, change it up.
Yeah, we got to switch it up eventually.
Infinite Rabbit Holes in the chat. What up?
Get out of my chat. I'm just kidding, guys. Welcome.
Yeah, bro. Welcome to the Shadow Band Podcast. So what up, bruh?
Not a lot, dude. Not a whole lot. Just busy. I'm tired. Busy and tired. Started playing Outer Worlds 2. It's pretty good.
Heck yeah.
Very hard.
I haven't played it. I'm also busy and tired. And I'm anxious. We paid for that damn RV and they still haven't made delivery. It's been 2 weeks now. And we're just like, come on, dude. Just
they gotta
ready.
clean all the blood out.
It's brand new, bro. There shouldn't be any blood in there.
And I'm going to clean it again before we move in.
Bro. You better be careful, bro. You got to get somebody professional in there, bro. Make sure you know whose didn't get in there. I'm not talking about Israel. I'm talking about the feds.
I was gonna say
you have to say that.
Israel or the feds.
You have to be very clear.
Same
if it's feds or the Yamis.
Yeah, they definitely bugged it, but what are you gonna do? Story.
What are you gonna do? No, you're just gonna make sure there's no like explosives in it or anything.
Story of my life. But you know
Get
what?
a dog
Me
out
and
there
Crystal
for explosives.
Yeah, right. No, that definitely I should scan it for sure, just in case. But me and Crystal have decided that we're going to start a new social media channels, and we're gonna try to be consistent and do at least a daily post of just the RV life, the tiny home lifestyle. Mixed with a little bit of like homesteading. We got the chickens out there, the whole thing. So I'm going to try to get into that game and do that and see what happens.
Off the grid.
Like semi off the grid, It's just like one of the, I'm like everybody else, right? Like I'm scrolling through my videos, my shorts, right? I'm just watching random brain rot videos. And I just like, I see these nerds that are just out here, not even like making buku bucks, but they're just making enough. They're making what I make it at my day job, just creating content. Right now we do this, but we do this once a week, and we can't really do this every day. I don't have the mental capacity to do this every day, right? But I could do some, hey, look, I'm cleaning chicken poop today, or hey,
Well, that's the thing. You're already going to be doing that, so you might as well just pop the phone out.
That's what I'm saying, right? I was even thinking about getting those Meta glasses, right? Join the AR Meta Glass Club and just film everything from my, POV. Something like that.
Yeah.
But
that'd be cool.
We'll see.
We'll
see what happens. You were asking me about Bitcoin miners before we started recording.
Yeah, I've been seeing some ads on the gram, and I think it, obviously the phone's listening to us talk about the coin all the these like it's little tiny, Bitcoin miners. A guy said he got like 4 or 5 of them and got a Bitcoin. It took like a year or two, but he randomly got one. I was like, whoa.
So he mined a block, so he got 3 Bitcoin.
That's what I meant. Yeah, he got 3 Bitcoin. He got 1 block. Yeah, and he was like, by no means. It was like an honest ad. I think he was like, by no means is this like you probably won't get this, but
yeah,
statistically, you're not going to get this. It is random, and it is, But he's like, I got one.
It's like, so if you buy a Bitcoin miner, right, especially like those little ones like you're talking about, they're like $200, $300, $400 depending on which brand you get. You plug it in, you download the Bitcoin software, you're running the node, you're mining, and it just does the thing on its own. It just goes, right? And we've talked about this before. Every 10 minutes, a new block is added to the blockchain, and if your compute is the one that solves the mathematical equation to create the next block, you get rewarded with whatever that reward is. And right now it's 3 Bitcoin, right? So yeah, it's like a lottery ticket that you're buying, but it's a lottery ticket that you have a chance of winning every 10 minutes forever. So, and he's right. The chances of you being the one that mines the block, slim to none, but it happens. I see it quite often. I'm in a lot of these Bitcoin groups, and once every 2 or 3 weeks, an article will pop up or a post will come up and be like, solo Bitcoin miner, rewarded 3 Bitcoin. And it's like, okay, like there's people out there that are making $300,000 because the price of Bitcoin's at $100,000 right now, right? Just off a $300 purchase that they just leave on, right? So speaking of that, I mean, did you get off zero yet? You have any Bitcoin?
No.
Get off, dude. Listen, man. Listen, this is not investing advice for the internet police, okay? But I'm just saying, for you and for everybody else who listens to the show, just get off zero. I'm not saying you got to go buy a whole Bitcoin for 100,000. I'm not saying you got to do what I do and buy every time you get, some extra money. Just get off of zero, right? Put $20 in.
Yeah.
Just get off of zero. That's it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I need to. I'm going to. I keep saying I'm going to, but I really am going to.
The thing is what happens is, the price is at about 100,000 right now, and you'll wait 6 months or a year from now and just not do it, and then the price will be 200,000. You'll be like, damn, I should have just bought some when it was 100,000. Because we're all sitting here right now saying, damn, I should have bought some 16 years ago when I could get 1,100 Bitcoin for $1, right? We all have that. I think about it every day. I'm like, damn, if I
would have having like $100 million.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember where I was in 2009 when Bitcoin came out, right? And like I said, you could get like thousands of coins for $1, right? And I know where I was and what I was doing. And it's like, I think about that all the time. Like, damn, I was doing this and I was sitting there and I was being an idiot. And all I had to do is just put $20 in.
And you could have been generational wealth.
Yeah. 16 years later, I could have generational wealth off a $20 investment, right?
Yeah.
Now, past performance is not a guarantee of future performance, right? That's sure, right? But getting off of zero is just the key.
I will do it. It will happen. It's happening before the end of this month for sure. We're getting off zero.
Yeah, just get off zero, bro. $20, $50, whatever, $100, whatever you got, whatever you're not gonna hurt off. You know what I'm saying? That's it.
We'll do it. I have like a couple $100 and like a whatever 401k got stored up from the previous job. So the plan is to just take that and
look. We've talked about this before, right? We've talked about this before, right? Whether you're just putting your money in like a high yield savings account, which is going to average like 4.5% if you're lucky, right? Of interest, just your money sitting there, or if you have like a Roth IRA or like a retirement account of some kind, maybe if you're like super lucky, you can find like a 10% situation, right?
Best
7, right? But they're out there. Like, you can find 10s out there. Or you could put your money in like the S&P 500 or SPY or something, right? And like, maybe you'll get that 11-12% year over year if you're lucky, right? Bitcoin on average 60% per year. So it's a no-brainer.
Insane.
It's a no-brainer.
So those things are legit though, because I didn't know if one of those like miners is legit. Because I might, if I got like a few $100, I might get one of those miners and then also just get like a whatever fraction of a coin.
Sure. Yeah. No, they're legit. I mean, there's obviously fake ones out there, just like anything else. So you got to do a little research, figure out like the right brand, um, that kind of thing. And it's a little more. Some of them are super easy, just plug and play. You buy it, it's got a USB, you plug it into the computer, and it just does the thing. Some of them you plug them into the wall, and they're like Wi-Fi connected to to your Wi-Fi or whatever, and like it's mining that way. But if you really want to get fancy, there's a couple of companies out there. They do like I don't know the proper term for it, but you pay this company, you give them the money, and they have a whole facility of miners, right? And you're basically buying into, let's say they have a data center with 1,000 Bitcoin miners running. Okay, you pay the $50 or the $100 or whatever the cost is, and if any of those miners hit, they divvy out the reward to all of the people that are involved. So, they really only make money if you make money type of thing. There's some out there that are sketchy, some that aren't. So this is just one of those things. You just got to kind of do the research. I've been thinking about doing that because I don't have the capacity to like run a serious mining operation. Yeah, I could buy the little, solo miner, but it might be more profitable to just find one of those companies. And then there's some of them that use renewable energy too, if you're a climate nerd. But that's the thing. Like people will ask, like, what is Bitcoin's not backed by anything. It's just digital currencies. Like there's nothing backing it, right? But that's not true. Energy backs it, right? Because it requires energy to compute, to mine. So
Yep.
it's backed by energy. There's like physics involved. So, you could do it that way.
That's nice. I was just curious. I'm like, I don't know if this is legit or not. I mean, it seems kind of like too easy, but that's kind of the allure of the digital currencies.
It's going to get easier too. If you went back 10 years and you wanted to buy Bitcoin, it was a hassle. You had to go through like a bunch of loops. You had to kind of know like how to work the internet and the computer, and like, it was not easy to buy Bitcoin 10 years ago. Now you could just buy it on Robinhood or Coinbase or Kraken or any of these exchanges. That's just an app that you download and it's super easy. But in 10 years in the future, it'll be even easier than that. I mean, dude, I saw just in the last like month or two, they've come out with this new credit card. So every time you swipe that credit card, you're, instead of getting points back or cash back, it just deposits Satoshis, fractions of Bitcoins, into your Bitcoin wallet. That's your cash back. So
how?
um
Some banks got like what, millions of.
well, listen, laws have been passed this year since Trump took office. There have been huge strides in the crypto space, and now banks are authorized to deal with crypto. Before, banks were not even allowed to touch it. They weren't allowed to custody it. They weren't allowed to sell it. Nothing, right? They weren't allowed to give loans off of it. Now, just in the last 9-10 months, banks are authorized, not all banks, but a lot of banks are authorized to deal with cryptos now. And Bitcoin and crypto is not exactly the same. They're different, but Bitcoin's included in that. And so there's a lot. It's moving quick, man. They're passing laws. There's, they did the stable coin. We've talked about the stable coins before, right? Like they passed the Genius Act, which is like the stable coin bill. And now they're working on some more like market clarity and legal clarity laws that are running through right now. And believe it or not, Democrats and Republicans are pretty much on board with this. Like it's not like a partisan issue. Like most people agree, like, hey man, this is the future.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably because the Jays are involved and they're bipartisan. So
I mean, I've said it before. This
once
is
you get
part,
banks involved, you go, okay.
yeah, this is part of the Great Reset, in my opinion, right? I've talked about this before too, where I think that this next reset that's going to happen is going to be a financial reset, among other things, and they're going to move everybody into digital everything. Everything's going to be digital, right? And if you look at like just technology as a whole, the digital versions of analog products or commodities or whatever, the digital versions always outperform, right? So think about, you know, newspaper or magazines or books or whatever the case is, and then we have the internet. You have like ebooks, you've got you know, all these different like media sources that are digital, like that just completely blew paperback shit out of the water, right, over the last 20 years or whatever the case is. So everything is moving digital, and that's going to include the money system. They're just working on the clarity, they're working on the laws, they're going to have to do some shifting around and this and that's in the back end, and the reset's going to be, it's going to be digital money. So
I mean, we're already right there, man. I tried to get fives from the bank. They don't carry fives anymore. I was trying to get $100 in fives for the cash register, and there's no fives. I went to 3 different ATMs, no fives. One of them didn't have tens either, just 20s and hundos.
listen, when people realize that most of your money's not actually in the bank, you deposit your money in the bank, and then when the people realize like, hey, there's no money there because it all gets lent out. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, like they only have to hold like 10% of what's deposited at a bank. So if you bring $1 million to the bank and deposit it, they can loan out 900,000 of that money to other people and only have to hold 100,000 of your million there. So if you went back to the bank later and you're like, yo, I want to withdraw my $1 million, they're gonna be like, we can't do that for you. You have to come back. We're gonna have to like get the money delivered here from all these other places in order to give you physical currency that you deposited. Right? A lot of people don't even understand this, but that's the way it is.
There's 2 things that happen, right? So if you did that digitally, right, you took digital money, not coin, not blockchain stuff,
Just your paycheck,
just
your
not
deposit
cash.
or whatever. Yeah.
You're $1 million into the bank, and it's gone. They invested it. It's gone. It's out somewhere. If you came back and said, I want $1 million back, I need to go and transfer it to somewhere else, or I needed to move to a different account or whatever, they just create $1 million. I didn't know this was a thing. Banks just make money out of thin air because it's all digital. I think I was watching like it was either Tucker or somebody's, I can't remember. He had somebody had some financial guy on. It might have been Dave Smith. Can't remember. It's financial dude on, and he was talking about how banks can just make money. It's like this unaccounted for metric of our commerce, where it's like when you take out a loan, that money didn't exist. Banks will just loan you an amount of money that is not it's not a vault somewhere. It's not even lended. It's not invested or anything. They will just put numbers into your account, and then you can use that money. So when we're sitting there trying to get the interest rates all the way down, that's for lending purposes, right? So one of the things that drives inflation up is when we bring the interest rates down, and then people go and borrow a bunch of money that the banks just make out of thin air. So, you know, we don't necessarily turn the money printer on and print $1 trillion. People loaned $1 trillion. The banks created $1 trillion in loans because of low interest rates. So it's like, bro, you're getting hit with the double whams, bro. They're freaking printing money like crazy, and banks are just handing out money like when the interest rates drop down, because it's all digital.
Yeah. No, 100%. And this is what
piece of paper gets exchanged.
This is why people who are wealthy, they understand this system, and this is why they hold hard assets, because it's not, I've talked about this before too, right? Like, let's say you buy a house, right? And you're using this as like, this is your hard asset, your investment. Okay. The value of the house goes up on a screen, right? Compared to the dollars. Why? Because they're just creating more dollars every single day. So every time they create a dollar, the rest of the dollars in circulation, the value goes down because supply and demand. There's just more of them. It's not as valuable, right? So they're just constantly creating more and more and more, which brings the value of the dollar down. So it requires more of them to purchase this hard asset, right? So you see number on screen go up. Oh, my house is now worth 400,000. Oh, now it's worth 500. Oh, 600, right? Because the dollar is just decreasing in value.
Tanking, dude.
The actual physical value outside of the monetary value, but like the physical value of the asset you're holding isn't changing, right? In fact, it's actually degrading. Your house is degrading. The roof is getting bad. The pipes are leaking. The foundation is crumbling over time. The paint's coming off. All these things are happening. So the physical value of the asset you're holding is also declining. But because it requires more of these fake dollars to purchase said asset, it looks like it's increasing in value, but it's not. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's that with any asset. I mean, take a bar of gold, for example, right? A bar of gold doesn't change. That's the thing that makes gold valuable, is that you could bury it in the earth for 1,000 years and take it out of the dirt, and it's still the same gold. It doesn't rust. It doesn't tarnish. You can't chemically alter the gold. It's gold forever, right? So, if you have a bar of gold in your possession and you're looking at number on screen, number will go up because there's just more dollars, and it requires more of those dollars to get that bar of gold that doesn't change. You see what I'm saying? Which is why gold is one of the hardest assets that you can purchase, right? And this is why people get into Bitcoin, because they realize like it's even harder than gold, because you can create more gold. You can dig more gold out of the ground. You can grab an asteroid from space and mine that fucking asteroid, and there's more gold in circulation, right? And every year, I think it's like 2 or 3% of the total gold supply is added to the supply, right? Like they're mining and refining gold 2 or 3% every year. So even it's being debased by 2 or 3% a year, even though number go up. Whereas things like Bitcoin, there's a hard cap on how many there are and ever will be in the entire universe for all of existence. So it's even harder.
Number go up.
Number go up as dollars get printed. There's a book by Larry Lepard called The Big Print. I haven't read the book because I can't read, but I listen to Larry all the time talking on the internet, and he's always talking about the big print. At some point, the monetary system that we live in is going to break, and it's going to break to the point to where they're going to have to print way more than they printed during COVID, right? And when that happens, hard assets number go up.
Well, yeah, but also there's a tipping point to where it's broken. Like you're getting money in wheelbarrows like it's World War II. Like you're toast. So what I'm finding out and learning is just like, dang, dude. People are making a lot of money. They're finding, whatever kinds of loopholes and ways to take out. You got so many people being like, oh, you take out a business loan or whatever, you buy this duplex thing, and then you use that equity toward another loan, and you get like these huge big ballooned payments out there. Elon Musk with all his everything is just a loan against an asset, but it's like the asset is still over there and you have funds. You didn't give the assets to the bank. The asset is still there, and it's theoretical to begin with. And then you have purchasing power, which means you have dollars. So that just got made. And billions of it. Like, it's not like I took out a loan for $100 and the bank just said, $100, whatever. It's billions of dollars all the time that are being loaned out. Ghost money.
With interest.
And then they're also printing trillions of dollars.
Like
So
you said before, you go to get that loan, they type numbers on a screen and they say, okay, here's your $100,000 loan. They just created $100,000 essentially in the system to loan you. Yeah. And then they're expecting you to give them that $100,000 back plus whatever the interest rate is, right? So let's say it's 15%, 20%, whatever the case is. If it's 20%, they're going to get that 100,000 plus another 20,000 of your time, energy, and labor back to them. So they created 100,000 out of thin air, and then you pay them back 120,000, right? And then that's now in the system.
Yeah.
And again, when you give that money to a bank, right, just to make this simple, they only have to hold a certain small percentage of that, and they could loan that out. The rest of it gets loaned out. So it's just this never-ending cycle.
Yeah, and every time you go and borrow, you just devalued your own dollar because that dollar didn't exist. So it's like, oh, I took out $400,000 for a house. Sweet. Awesome. You just devalued your dollar by however much, it's a tiny percent, but you multiply that times 400 million of us all doing this crap. Like, that's just part of the system. Nobody buys a house for cash. So it's like everybody's loaning everything, and banks just make that money up. So whatever that number is, it's crazy.
It's crazy. You know what some of the Bitcoin whales are doing right now is they're shorting the dollar and going long Bitcoin. What that means is they're getting loans for dollars. They're going to go get $1 million loan at a 15 or 20% interest rate, and they're dumping all of that million into Bitcoin because Bitcoin, you're getting like a 60% year over year return. So that 60% return is covering the 20% interest fee. So they're shorting the dollar, right?
That's crazy.
Putting it into Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin go up, they're paying off this loan, and they're still in the green.
Expand your mind, bro. These people
That's what they're doing right now. That's what
I'm saying, bro. It's like you got to take advantage of the system, bro. You can't. You know what it is, bro? I don't know if you can see this when I pop it up, but
Linda's in the chat.
We know what's going on, bro. She knows what's up. So, all right, let's switch gears a little bit. I saw two interesting things. One of them is kind of short. We'll start with that one. Let me get my share up real quick. Let me pop this. Oh, it's fine.
What do you mean, Linda? Who's a grifter? We're grifters? We're not grifters.
She said the thing about the Jews. Jewish tricks, bunch of grifters. Bitcoin should fail for this alone.
Listen, Linda, I know that you're a religious person based off the comments you've put in the past in the chat, and I respect that. And I encourage you to do the research on the Bitcoin itself, because you'll realize that is God's money. It's the only fair monetary system that's ever been created. It's completely decentralized. It's the only thing that's fair. The money that we all deal with day to day right now is not God's money. It's not fair. It's thievery. They're robbing you day after day without you even realizing it. Something that's a hard cap, that's immutable and cannot be changed or fucked with or printed or cheated in any way, shape, or form. That's something that's God's money, right? So think about it that way. Look into it. Vaccinated sperm under a microscope. Okay, here we go.
We're taking a turn. So first off, over here on the side, sperm counts are down. Sperm motility. I don't really know what all that means. Counts, obviously, we know what that is. Motility, flexibility maybe, and then sperm morphology. I think that means that they are not part of the Power Rangers anymore. So let's take a look. Look at all that. So what we're seeing they'll zoom in again. If you get real zoomed in, there's a normal one, right? Kind of in the bottom. And then there's this one with this weird kind of toe thing sticking off of it. And it doesn't move very well. And then, ew, dude, it's so freaking gross. I think that was it. And this is where, we're going to get into, and they put over here, much of this is directly caused from many dangerous ingredients added to the jabs, including mercury, aluminum, graphene oxide. We've covered that so many times. MSG, which, bro, if that's the stuff that's in Chinese food, what the heck, dude? Is that monosodium glutamate or whatever it's called? And then DNA contamination, bro. What is that?
DNA contamination.
DNA contamination.
That doesn't sound good.
That doesn't sound good at all. I don't like the sound of that one bit. But this is where we get into like, you know, told you. Told you. Called it.
They're still pushing this. I just looked this up on the New Scientist right now. 1 day ago, COVID raises risk of heart issues in children more than vaccination.
Not true.
They're still pushing this.
False. Fake news.
Same headline on Financial Times.
Bro, they lost. Nobody believes this stuff anymore.
17 hours ago, the independent COVID jab presents less harm for patients than the virus itself, study reveals.
Study reveals, dude. Paid by who? Friggin' Bill Gates.
Probably.
No thanks, buddy. You look like really beat mashed potatoes. I'm not listening to you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
But this is what they want, bro. This is what they want. This is what he was talking about. This is what Bill Gates, I'm not trying to single him out. He said we can get the population decreased successfully through vaccinations. This is what he's talking about. They don't like humans. When we were like last episode, we were talking about reducing the carbon footprint, blah, blah, blah. You're the carbon footprint. You're the carbon dioxide emitter. They're trying to get rid of you. The graphene oxide is kind of scary.
What was that thing? Decade of Vaccines. I think is what it's called.
Oh yeah, it was a decade of vaccines, baby. That was from like 2000 to 2010 or something like that.
Gavi, Decade of Vaccine Collaboration, working to realize a 10-year vision to extend the full benefits of immunization to all people regardless of where they live. In 2010, the global health community declared the next 10 years to be the decade of vaccines, with a vision of a world in which all individuals and communities can enjoy lives free from vaccine-preventable diseases. Sounds good. Decade of Vaccines Collaboration brought together. Say what?
Said until they start creating them, it'll never end.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like they just can push the goalpost, keep pushing the goalpost. Yeah, I mean, like there's a whole. I mean, first of all, not even to get like super conspiratorial, just to get into like the baseline thing that everybody listening to this probably already thinks about. You know, you're talking about big pharma. Like it's a $1 trillion industry, right? When you're talking about pharmaceutical industry, right? The medical industrial complex. You know, they make money off of people being sick, right? Now, I'm not saying that they're making people sick. I mean, I would say that, but I'm just for the sake of this argument here, right? I don't even have to go that far. There is an incentive for people to have illnesses because this $1 trillion industrial complex, medical industrial complex, benefits off of patients, right? So just thinking about that, nothing else, does it make sense that they would want to actually cure and stop all disease and do away with any? No, it doesn't make any sense. They would never do that because the financial incentive is there for there to be disease.
Yeah, it's all money driven, right? That's the same concept of like those, was it Nabisco or whatever was trying, or Lay's was, they're working on trying to make Ozempic or whatever that is, whatever that peptide is, resistant foods. So that whatever kind of appetite suppression, whatever that those BPL1s, or what are they called? GLP1s, whatever those are doing to your system to make you not want the food, it's not going to be affected by your Lay's potato chip or your Nabisco, blah, blah, blah. Keep eating. Keep stuff in your face because money's more important than your health. They want you eating that garbage. They want you staying obese.
Sorry, we're laughing at the chat right now. Linda's going off.
I can't see it.
Linda's going off. Listen, Linda. All right. I understand your concern. I'm with you. I'm one of you, right? I'm just saying she's going off about the Bitcoin thing. You think that the petty amount that you and Charlie buy will fucking mean anything, right? Like, how is Bitcoin fair when the source of it is probably the CIA?
Could be. But probably not,
listen,
but it could be.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. This.
Hold on, let me say something real quick.
Go ahead.
And you've always been an advocate of this. Bitcoin is your way out of the fiat currency that we're in now. You will 100%, and you just said it before, buy gold. If that's your way out, buy gold, buy platinum, buy silver, whatever. You got to get out of the fiat currency thing where they're just printing us into oblivion or lending us into oblivion. They are setting up the next move. And whoever's just chilling with your money's already digital. I haven't had a cash dollar on me in God knows how long. I literally went a month and a half with no wallet, phone only, no debit card, nothing, just my phone. Your money's already digital. It's just not backed by anything substantial. It's backed by Ethereum. Like, that's it. Just theory, just speculation. So get a hard asset, whether it's a digital hard asset or a physical hard asset, get a hard asset.
Yeah, 100%. And like, listen, your comments just tell me that you don't know anything about Bitcoin, and that's fine. Most people don't. 99% of the population doesn't. I'm not shitting on you for that, by the way. I'm just pointing out the fact that you just don't understand it, and I don't expect you to. But this is not a centralized network. It's a decentralized network. Why would the CIA create a decentralized network? Think about it. The CIA wants control. It wants centralized networks. This is a totally decentralized network, period. And there's no way for me to explain that to you. You have to just kind of dig in and research what that actually means. So the CIA did not create this. And then the second part of your comment, and the rich banks and investment groups are buying 99% of it. You know why they're buying 99% of it? First of all, 99% is not accurate. They'll never be able to hold 99% of it because 97 or 98% of all Bitcoin that will ever exist has already been mined. And more than half of that is held by regular schmucks, by me and other regular schmucks. So the best that the big banks and investment groups can do is try to catch up to that number, which they'll never be able to do. They're freaking out. They have FOMO. They have fear of missing out. They see what's happening and they're like, shit, we need to get some of this before the reset happens. That's what's happening right now. So again, I would just encourage you to do the research on your own. And
if your research lands you and like you don't trust it still, okay, cool.
Yeah,
you know what
fine.
I mean?
That's fair.
More for me and Jeff.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I mean, I get the concern. Trust me. Like, I'm not necessarily like for digital assets, like fundamentally, because I know that there's, inherent risk with like government entities, especially like watching your transactions. But they're already doing that with your bank, right? Like, there's no way. Like Creamer was just saying, you're already in a digital fiat system, so they're already watching your transactions. They're, if you send money right now from your bank to ISIS, they'll see it, right? No different than with Bitcoin. The only difference is they can't shut your Bitcoin wallet off like they can shut your bank off, right? That's the only difference.
Like cold storage kind of deal.
If you're doing it right, if you're holding it on Coinbase or Robinhood, you're fucked. Sorry, but if you're doing it properly, right? There's nothing that they can do. They would have to literally like torture me to get my seed phrase to get access to my assets.
Yeah. Well, like look at what happened with the truckers in Canada.
Exactly. There you go.
Debanked them.
Yep.
Sorry. They just did it in Vietnam. I think 50,000 people they just debanked because they wouldn't take the biometric. They didn't sign up for the biometric thing. So they said, oh, your bank's gone. It's our money now. Have fun starving to death. So it's like they got everybody by the chokehold because you don't actually hold any of your money. You might have $50,000 in the bank, but they'll just shut it off.
Just
You don't
remember,
have access to it.
you will own nothing and you will be happy, right? That's the quote we all know and we all love, right?
Mr. Fink.
If
No, that
if
was Schwab's.
Schwab. So if you're holding regular money, fiat dollars, you fit into that category. You will own nothing, right? And you'll think you're happy because you can go and spend your money on Amazon and buy whatever the fuck you want, and that's all fine and good. But again, I own an asset that cannot be taken, cannot be debased, cannot be seized. Nothing can happen to it unless I give them the seed phrase.
Yeah.
Period.
Again,
Hard
that is
stop.
just because you're doing it right. They 100% will take your stuff if you've got just a wallet somewhere.
The only reason that they're seizing Bitcoin is because they have access to the seed phrases, or that Bitcoin is held on open exchanges like Robinhood or Coinbase or Kraken or any of these places. So yes, the government can go into your Robinhood account and they can seize your Bitcoin. Just like they can, backdoor through Facebook and get all your data. They can backdoor and hit up fucking Robinhood support team and say, hey, look, this guy's a criminal. We need his wallet address. We need all his Bitcoin. Boom, seized. But if it's in cold storage, disconnected from the internet, seed phrase locked in here, there's no way that they can seize that. It's impossible. It's physically impossible. That's what makes it hard.
Yeah, that's the digital equivalent of having a gold brick under my bed.
Yeah. But
You
even
got
a gold brick under your bed, they could kick your door in and they could tear your mattress up and they could take your gold brick.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. That's like they're either going to torture you and get it, or freaking give you a truth serum, make you take it or whatever, or use some AI thing. But it's like, they're not going to do that. No one wants my gold brick. So it's pretty safe with me. But if your money is just in Bank of America, bye.
Yeah, you're so screwed.
See it.
Right? This is what people just don't, everybody's stuck in this fiat system. We've all lived in it. And it took me a while to like shift my perspective on this as well. Don't get me wrong, right? Like everybody thinks my bank account's secure. I got a four-digit PIN that Frank doesn't know. So he can't get into my bank account because he doesn't know my 4-digit PIN. All right? My PIN for my Bitcoin is 12 or 24 words.
Yeah.
Way harder to get in there.
Well, also, it's not like, when you're doing it right, when it's cold storage, it's not tied to the internet. Who could do banking when the AWC, whatever those are called, servers just went down last week?
Right.
Amazon servers went down. Your bank doesn't work. You can't access your money. You can't get paid. You can't transfer anything. You're screwed. Nothing works. POS systems don't work. Nothing works. The whole entire system screeches to an absolute halt because some computer somewhere isn't working. Your money is already digital.
Yep.
It's just the most unsecured version of it right now.
Yeah. As long as the internet is operating somewhere in the world where a node exists, you can transact. And the beautiful thing is anybody can fire up a node. There's regular schmucks that have nodes. The guy around the corner's got a node, right? I could have a node. Creamer could have a node, right? He buys the miner, he's got a node. So
it's really sci-fi, which I think is a lot tough for people to get into, because it could be like, sitting at a cafe somewhere and you pull out the freaking node and you access my money, like, without any sort of bank intervention or anything like that. Like it is pretty sci-fi. So I get it, but yeah, no, look, just get off of the fiat, get some hard assets.
She says, could you transfer Bitcoin during the AWS server? Yes, you could. People were still transacting in Bitcoin because you don't need, you could do peer-to-peer transactions. That's the whole thing. If you read the white paper, it's a peer-to-peer network, right? So if I'm running a node and Creamer's running a node, I don't have to rely on anything, any other part of the internet, as long as the internet is on.
Yeah.
And now you have Starlink, you have like satellite internet feeds, you have all these different ways.
It's not running off of a server.
You can transact Bitcoin via Bluetooth. You can there's so many ways that you can transact. You don't have to rely on the system. So again, this is just me not shitting on you. You just don't fully understand the concept of a totally decentralized peer-to-peer network. Why? Because it's never existed before. This is like the greatest technology. Fuck the coin. Forget the coin and forget the number go up part. Just the idea of a decentralized peer-to-peer network that cannot be fucked with is the future of things. Okay, whether you want to believe that or not, but this is why I always say the Great Reset will bring this in. This is part of the Great Reset. This is one of those things where it's like if you can't beat them, join them, right? But not really, because it's decentralized, right? Like Trump,
we're already on the
Clinton's,
cusp of this, though.
yeah,
We
not
try to buy something in cash during COVID. People were just not taking cash.
yeah,
So it's like, oh, you just can't shop there anymore, or you have to go and get a debit card. You have to use the digital currency. You have to. It is digital. Like, it's already digital. It's just not
it's not unfuckable.
yeah. That's the word. It's not secure. It's just, somebody can put a dang you literally in like France. I was watching a video in France, some other places where like pickpockets and stuff are really popular. You have to go to ATMs and like grab the reader first before you stick your card in, because they'll stick a ghost reader over it. All the ATMs, there's like this little tiny, super thin, just like literally like a piece of wire and a chipboard that they stick inside the reader. You have to like scrape the reader where your card goes in to pull the thing out to test it, because literally your card goes in, your money's gone. It's not secure. Any old buddy can do it. Everybody knows those sketchy gas stations in town where like you go and you're like, my card's definitely getting hacked at this gas station. It's all hackable, and also it's all government. Take the money away. I'm telling you, it's go to Canada.
And I'm totally aware that like the internet as a whole, now that was created by CIA and NSA and deep state fucking
CERN.
CERN or whatever, right? Like the internet itself, sure, I get it, right? But you unless you live in a cave, we've talked about this before, right? Like unless you're 100% off the grid and you just don't need the internet to exist because you have all of the food and all of the things that you need right in front of you that you can, then sure, fine, I get it. But unfortunately, none of us, I mean, dude, you're watching me on the internet, right? So it's like, you exist in this world, you're going to have to use the internet on some level. Now, your choice is, do you transact and save and do all those things in a centralized network that can be manipulated or debased or confiscated or shut off? Like, do you exist in that transactional world, or do you exist in a decentralized, peer-to-peer, cold storage, unfuckable, unprintable, undebasable, like that world? There's two separate worlds here.
And it is a backup. It is just if that's where the wave goes.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
I'm not putting every dollar I make into Bitcoin.
This is bullets in the closet, right?
Yeah.
This, just in case something goes bad, I've got something to get me through the next wave, whatever that thing is, the next era. I'm not starting at zero. The power grid doesn't go out. I have no guns, no storage, no water, no beans, no rice, nothing. I'm just in an apartment with electronics that don't work, right? When the EMP goes off, I got a couple pew-pews that if worse comes to worse, I can defend what I have or take something from somebody else.
Yeah. That's all.
It's rainy day, worst case scenario. We don't know where this is going. Ride the wave, right?
Yeah. This is why I say just get off zero. I'm not saying put everything into it. I'm not saying like bank everything on it. Like I'm just saying like,
and because you buy
some
pieces of it, just get a little bit, test it out, get a Satoshi. I haven't bought any yet, so I'm telling you, it's just. I also didn't have a gun at one point. I was just like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to be the guy that doesn't have one. So when the EMP goes off and the blackout happens, I'm not the guy that's like, oh, can somebody help me, please? Right? So when the money goes fiat and it's like a free for all, like we've seen happen in so many countries, Cuba and Venezuela and Russia and Germany, the money goes fiat and you're not, or when it's all digital now. We're not taking paper money anymore. You're not, you know what I mean? That's all.
There's hundreds of stories out there of people who have who had Bitcoin, okay, and they lived in these countries, okay, Venezuela as an example. I forget the guy's name. There's a dude who literally was there standing in bread lines, and he was like, shit, man, like I got to get out of here. And you can't just bring like a bar of gold through the airport. Good luck. Okay, it's not going to happen. Sorry. You can't just transfer all of your fucking pesos to America and expect that your money's going to be here. Doesn't work like that, right? So what this guy did, and hundreds of other people like him, is he just put some clothes on and he walked across the border. I'm not saying that that's the greatest thing to do, but in his situation, it was life or death, right? So like actually life or death, not like some of these fucking assholes just claiming asylum just because, but like for real, right? Walks across the border. He's got the keys in here. So when he gets here, gets online, transfers his Bitcoin from cold storage into a new wallet address. All his wealth came with him. You could travel across the world butt ass naked. As long as you've got the information in here, you can withdraw your money. Can't do that with gold. You can't do that with dollars. You can't do that with anything else. So, like Creamer's saying, just in fucking case, you never know. It's a good idea to probably have some. Not investing advice. Just saying.
Yeah. And it's like, it's the same concept as anything. It's the same concept as having some water jugs and rice in your pantry for when it's the blackout. It's like, no, that's not going to get you through. And yeah, you got to know how to start a fire. And oh, but you don't have any heat source. Yeah, there's other things you're going to need to get. And no, it's not going to bulletproof you in the next thing, but it's something. It's going to get you through. If you got a handful of Satoshis, it's going to carry you through to the next thing. You're not just going to be left with empty-handed.
You guys remember the Silicon Valley Bank thing that happened a couple years ago?
Yeah.
There was a bank run, and that bank went under. And this has happened before multiple times, right? This is what I was talking about at the beginning. When people realize like how broken the financial system is, there's going to be another bank run, and your bank, whatever bank you have right now, is going to collapse because there's just no money for them to give to the people who are coming and asking for their money. So the banks will go under. Now, two things might happen. Number one, government bail out the banks. 2008 happens again. Okay. Or let's say you're somewhere and a natural disaster happens, okay, and a fucking Palisades directed energy weapon fire happens, and all your shit gets burned down, including the bank, by the way, okay, and your cards and your checkbook and all that, and you're just running down the street butt-ass naked with nothing, like... And there's a bank run. Maybe it's a global catastrophe of some kind, another COVID situation, for example, right? And you can't go get your damn money, right? Well, guess what? You've got a backup plan. That's all I'm saying.
That's it. Just get a couple. Or don't. It's okay. It's okay. You don't have to get it.
Yeah, you don't have to.
You don't have to get it.
I'm just saying, I've put in the time to research this to a point where I understand this. Yeah, it's not sponsored. I wish it was.
Not sponsored.
I understand this well enough based off of the thousands of hours I've put into researching this, that I'm fully comfortable with where I'm at and with my understanding of this decentralized network, right? This is your arguments are no different than people who were saying the internet's fucking stupid when they were saying that in the 70s and the 80s. And they're like, the internet's retarded, bro. Computer in every house? What are you, crazy?
Nobody's going to email.
Nobody's going to eat. What is this?
Books online? No one's going to buy that. Amazon will be out of business in 6 months.
They were laughing at people like Bill Gates, right, who was out on TV in like the early 90s, and he was like, there's going to be a computer in every home. And they were laughing at him. They were like, dude, you're an idiot, right? That's what your argument is right now. And I'm just saying, you're going to look back in 10 or 15 or 20 years and be like, fuck.
I shouldn't have got the COVID vaccine.
I shouldn't
have trusted the experts.
My sperm counts
I should have listened to Jeff and Charlie. I shouldn't have got the vaccine, right? We're not trusting the financial experts right now, but we are watching because they didn't get the jab, but they told you to, and they're getting the Bitcoin and they're telling you not to. So let's follow the trends here, right? They say, don't do it while they're doing it. So we know, right?
Yep. Yeah. If you see the big banks and the big financial institutions just loading up on Bitcoin, guess what I'm going to be doing? loaded. It's like the Nancy Pelosi stock track.
Pelosi doing it. I'm doing it.
Right? So play the game or get left behind, dude. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Well, speaking of which, real quick, what do you think about this right here? Let me.
Damn, this whole episode turned into a fucking Bitcoin rant. It's crazy.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. So, channel I was watching, or not, whatever page I saw, the CIA Truth, obviously, we can trust it. It's basically just explaining that, like, from ancient times, Egypt, Persia, Rome, America, Babylon has always existed in some form, and it's this kind of like what we're talking about a little bit, where the group, the top guys, whatever it is, whatever family or bloodline or whatever, they are just very targeted. They steer generationally the civilizations and empires, and they're in control of it the whole entire way, dude. So that same eagle in Osiris, or whatever that is, Ra, becomes Persia, becomes the eagle in Rome, becomes the United States. And I am certain the next thing is going to be very similar. Also, since when does our seal have the old
hexagon?
Yeah, in the top.
The cube, the two-dimensional cube.
Well, we know what else that is. Since when has that been in our seal? Is that really it?
Yeah, that's actually it. And listen, this is that eagle. This is the eagle versus serpent shit that I'm always talking about, right? Like, look, it's the eagle. This is the eagle faction. The eagle faction are the ones who have completely. Remember we talked about this, right? We went from like wavelength civilization, smooth wave, to like fucking, you know, sharp sine wave civilizations, and like everything's super analytical and like, you know, disruptions and all this type of stuff, right? That you're looking at the symbolism of that faction, if you will, that is, like you said, carried civilization through to where we are right now. You know, I've said this before, Rome never fell, it just transitioned into America, right? It's the same. That's the reason they're using the same archetypes and the same iconography, because it's the same bloodlines, it's the same ideologies that are pushing all of this in, this progression, if you will, right? It's like progress is the real enemy to humanity in a way, right? Because if you think about it, you know, if you go back, whether you're talking about Garden of Eden or, you know, whatever the case is, you know, maybe you're into like Native American things, and like you realize like they were living off the land, they were in harmony with nature, they were, you know, never consuming more than they could produce. Like this whole thing was the thing, and then boom, Eagle faction comes, swoops in, eliminates that, and we get into this like cycle of just like consuming, scarcity, right? Like distrust, fucking just chaos, constant chaos, right? You were just looking at it. You were just looking at like a visual representation of this carrying through the ages.
Do you think, because I kind of do, but I have not fleshed out the idea, so maybe you have more, like, is it a good guy, bad guy thing? Is it serpent, eagle, good, bad? Or is it just both nihilistic, both destructionist? Because it's like, there is that whole concept of like oh dude, this really messed me up, but we'll talk about it another time. Christopher Columbus comes over, and it's, you know, for Spain and whatever. And then the settlers come over, and then we just start like all these other European countries come over to the West and just start marching through it, like marching through it. And the idea is that like over here, it was just real naturalistic and everybody's, but they were like exterminating buffalo, scalping each other. Aztecs were like freaking, Quetzalcoatl was like killing thousands of people, just cutting their hearts out, cutting their heads off and rolling them down the Aztec pyramids down. I mean, they were just going crazy over here, like crazy, absolutely decimating other tribes and the native populations of things, just destroying. So it's like you have one like self-destructive group over here, you have another not self-destructive but you destructive, and they come over. It's like, which one of these is the good?
So I think that there's a mix here. I think number one, history is not what we've been told, right?
No.
So when you hear these ideas of like all these human sacrifices and the tribes scalping each other and all that stuff that you just explained, I don't necessarily know if that's 100% accurate or if that's manipulations of history through time, right? So it's very possible that settlers came over here and they labeled Native Americans or wherever whatever country, because it's the same around the world, right? They labeled them as fucking heathens and or pagans or whatever their terms were depending on the area. And they probably over the course of time just gave these stories and passed these stories down like, yo, they were scalping each other, they were just
That is
eating each
possible.
other alive. There was they were cannibals, they were cutting the hearts out of each other, human sacrifice. And
Yeah.
was there some of that? Perhaps. I don't know. I don't think any of us do because we can't go back and check.
Yeah.
All we can do is trust the history, right? Trust the experts on what they say was happening at the time. But there's the other part of it too, where like there's a level of human instinct in that, right? Like humans were constantly like, even right now, even in our civilized world that we live in, right? We're at each other's throats. Right, you got people there's some people out there just assholes, like they'll just take you out just because they don't like the way you look or smell.
Oh, yeah. I
Right.
mean, just look at Africa. It's freaking bloodbath over there half the time.
So there's like a part that's like, okay, I could believe a lot of that stuff because it's human nature to act that way, to use that lizard part of your brain and be a degenerate. But I also think that a lot of that is just like false history.
Could be, man. Like, I just saw this video. Again, I don't know if any of this is true or not, if it's just algo fuel, but like Christopher Columbus sailed over from Spain the day after the Jews were expelled from Spain, and that his real name is Cristobal Colombo, which I guess is a Spanish Jewish name. So it's like he wasn't actually like he didn't come over here because he's some great explorer or something like that. He came over here because he was finding a new place for them to be because they got expelled from Spain.
They were fleeing.
They're fleeing. I'm like, dude, what? Like, you can't believe anything anymore, man.
Well, it's the same thing with the Knights Templar, right? Like the Knights Templar back in the day, like the same thing. Like they got ousted, and they were all fleeing, and they went to all the corners of the world to escape the fucking burning at the stake, right? So it's, but again, like we don't know how much of the history is real or true or modified, and I would just say that like if you look at some of the like Native American texts, for instance, like I forget what they call them, like the like it's not the original people, it's like the first people, I think is what they call it, the first people. Okay.
Yeah.
These tribes, they always had like I don't know, there was like a certain level of reverence to the first people, and the first people were the ones that were the mound builders that they were out there building these pyramids around the world and all these types of stuff. And I think that culture, right, was probably like the good guys, like really the good guys. They were probably on like a different level of physics. They weren't utilizing like physics the way that we are. They were using like frequencies and harmonics and vibrations to like create these megalithic structures. They're probably in tune. If you look in the Bible, for instance, right, like there's people in the Bible who lived to be 1,000 years old, right, like first people, right?
Yeah.
So I think that subset of humanity way back was like the snake people. And then at some point, whether it was after the Younger Dryas events or whatever happened, all the crusades and all this and that was happening, they fucked with the history. And then you have like tribes that are dispersed throughout the world that are like cannibals and like human sacrifices, and they're like worshiping like these deities, but the first people weren't. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think there's a whole section of human history that's just never even considered. It's not in the history books. It's just not part of our timeline, right? Our timeline says, hey, there was nomadic tribes, and then settlers came, called them heathens. They fought, they killed all the heathens, and now we have civilization. I think we're missing like the first chapter. The first chapter is actually, hey, the first people were like in tune with everything, and they were living 1,000 years because they knew how to like stare at the sun and like get energy from the sun, or who knows what kind of weird spooky shit they were doing. And then whatever happened, whether it was some people say it was like if you read like the Hindu texts, like the Mahabharata, right? Like they talk about there was like a war in the sky, right? So was it a faction of beings that came from Mars or another star system? And, they introduced this idea of like conquering and, money and this type of stuff. Did they bring that here? And then that just disrupted the natural order of things. And then the timeline starts, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's what I think.
Yeah, that's I mean, my dad gave me this like theory one time when he was reading through, I think it's the Apocalypse of Adam. It's not in the Bible, but it's like the account of what happened right after the Garden of Eden, when they were kicked out. And it's like, Cain kills Abel, Cain has children, and then Seth, the third son, has lineage, whatever. And so Seth and his descendants, whatever, not a huge group of them, they lived in a cave called the Cave of Promise, and everyone else, Cain and all his sinful group, they lived in like the valley, not in the cave. And there was like, that was the two factions. It's the ones that stayed in the cave and the ones that were down. And like the ones that are down in the valley or whatever, they like created instruments and cities and like all this kind of stuff. And they would like play music and like lure the folks out of the cave. It's probably some huge cave or some like giant cavern and whatever. I don't know what it was, but they would lure them out with all their sensualities and cool things that they were creating and building, while the others were just kind of in tune with the land and nature and whatever. And that's the two bloodlines. You have Cain and Seth, and it's just been going on forever. And I'm just like, well, which they both seem bad now. It's like, if you got serpent bloodline, is that good? Is that lizard people? And if you got eagle blood, I mean, obviously we're talking Egypt, Persia, Rome. They're into some crazy stuff. America, obviously, into some wild stuff. I know we've been painted as like this monolithic good guy, but I don't know. Well, I support my country, but I can't condone everything that we do.
Yeah, for sure. On a base level, right? On base reality, yeah, right? We're all patriotic around here, but I'm a contrarian, especially when it comes to like the experts, right? And if the experts, and the experts don't just have to be lab coats or politicians or whatever, or academics, right? Like you could go back in time into history, right? The experts was like the church or whatever the case is. Like you just keep going back, and there was always like a group of the experts. Okay.
Yeah. Kind of a group of kings, and they're like priests and all this kind of stuff. And
yeah, I like to be, opposite of whatever they were saying is the truth, because that's just the contrarian, conspiracy minded person that I am. So if for all of human history, they kind of labeled, the serpent as the bad guy, then it makes me wonder, like, is he really? Right now, I'm not talking about like your run of the mill, like Satan, right? No. Like, I think that's a construct that was created well after all of this started, right? But like just the idea, these archetypes, right? When you talk about like the snake in the garden, for instance, right? Is that something that was just a manipulation of the timelines and of the histories, right? Like when I talk about the eagle versus the serpent, we've talked about before, right? To me, it makes sense. Like, hey, maybe the serpent people, not the serpent in the garden in particular, but like the serpent bloodline, the serpent people, that faction or whatever, maybe they weren't bad. Maybe they were just not involved in this progress, right? The enemy of progress. They were, like you said, they were in tune. They were living, an abundant lifestyle, just naturally minding their own business. And then, Eagle faction comes in and stirs everything up and introduces, war and all this type of stuff. And it just creates this whole other thing that happens. So to me, you know, it's not the lizard people, right? The lizard people are the eagles, right? It's just that's just a fun way to talk about it, right? Like, thanks David Icke, thanks Alex Jones. Like, we live in the modern era, right? I can say the lizard people, and everybody knows what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, the powers that be, like the assholes in the deep state, whatever you want, right? But really, go back far enough, and the lizard people or the snake people were not the bad guys. See what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
That's what I need to research more, because like I don't know what to make of it because I don't know enough about it. But like, like my instinct is that maybe they are like Republican Democrats, like two sides of the same coin. It's like
Could
maybe
be.
it's both like different versions of the Saturn worship, whatever. It's like both subject to the deception, just go about it completely different ways. One's maybe more naturalistic and the other one's more analog. I don't know. Maybe one is good, one's bad. It's like I don't know enough about like where the origin of the bloodline comes from. So,
And
but
we never will. That's the problem. Like,
yeah,
there's
it's like you see the
there's
circle thing. It's in the pharmacy symbol and stuff, and it's like that can't be good. And you see the eagle on like the dollar, and like and these like Persia, Egypt, Rome. It's like that's probably not good either. It's like a lot of war and conquest, and the other one maybe is like more shadows. One is outright control, and the other one's more manipulation. I don't know. I don't know.
unfortunately we'll never know, probably because those are secrets held tight by some of these secret societies, right? So unless you join one of these secret societies and you get to like the secret levels up there, right, like the ones that nobody even knows about, like you're never going to know that true history. And then the other part too is like archaeology. They're not going to dig something up that changes all of it and like bring that to the front. Like the Smithsonian comes in, funding stops, whatever the case is. So like, even if they dug something out of the ground that like showed some truth to our timeline, like they're not going to show us that. You know what
Mummies
I'm
in the
saying?
Grand Canyon. Get out of here, dude. Who told
But
you
if
you
you
could dig here?
if you look at like Zachariah Sitchin's, what's the word I'm looking for? His like his interpretation of the Sumerian tablets, right? And you get into like the Anunnaki stuff, right? You'd like Enki and Enlil and like all these beings, these Anunnaki beings, and that whole thing. This kind of ties in. It makes sense to me a little bit. Maybe not like directly. Maybe it wasn't the Anunnaki. Maybe that's not accurate. But the story of it all, the plot of it makes sense to me. Where you have these beings that came here, and they found, whether it was humanoids or primates or Neanderthals or Denisovans or who knows, some version of a human being here, and they tweaked the DNA to create a slave race, right? To mine the gold. Like that's the Anunnaki story, right? And there was two brothers. I can't remember. I was getting mixed up. I'm slightly dyslexic, so it was like Enki and Enlil, and one of them wanted to basically, let's just call it like free the slaves, free the the Americans, the humans, right? And the other one was like, no, like don't do that. And they did it anyways, right? And they unlocked something in our minds that allows us to like think outside of that slave coding that they created us for, right? So it could be that if you went back far enough, there is no good or bad side or right or wrong side of the eagle versus serpent thing. It could be that they are
Versus free.
it could be that they're two wings of the same bird,
Yeah.
but there's just two different paths that could have been taken, right? And it's like, we just ended up on this path of scarcity and analytical and blah 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 blah, right? So, which one's right or wrong? I don't know. I mean, technology is cool. We're talking on the internet from across the state, sweet, right? But we're also getting robbed from our time and our energy every single day when we go to work, right? And it's just like, I don't know the right or the wrong. All I can kind of do is speculate on like what happened and how these things split off from one another and created like a whole new like version of humanity.
Well, yeah, and that's what like just observing your surroundings in the world, you go, oh yeah, there are two different factions out here. There's like there's the accelerationists that just want to get to the freaking space age, the the MTV 2020 kind of like, everything's silver and white and blue. And then you have like, no, we need to like restore the earth and get back to something more now. You've got the concrete jungle versus restoring the jungle, farmland and off the grid versus fully plugged in anti-human, transhuman kind of agenda. So it's like there's like polar opposites, and it's like, is that it? There's like conquest and there's non-intervention. Like there's like just two. There's always seems to be like two huge, powerful movements, and it seems like Eagle wins a lot of the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Seems like Eagle just comes in and says, "Hey, we got the nukes, we got the javelins, we got the chariots, we got the sun god. We've got the bronze sword versus, we get the iron swords versus your gold swords. Like, we got the stuff."
yeah. And that's probably why that's carried on through the ages, is because, like you said, that they're the ones that are willing to step into your territory and fuck you up and take your shit. Whereas the other faction's not trying to do that. They're just calling pacifists, right? Like they just don't want to be involved with the scarcity mindset in any way, shape, or form. So when you have like two different mindsets, you have a scarcity mindset and an abundant mindset, right? And your abundant peoples are just minding their own business, living in abundance. And then you have these scarcity people. Like think about your average dystopian movie, right? Like, you got your raiders out there in the desert, right? And what do they always do? They always show up at the pleasant, peaceful, camp or wherever, and everybody's just doing their thing. And the raiders show up and they just kill everybody and take all the shit and leave it burning, right? That's what's going to happen. So, of course, for thousands of years, that's going to be like the reigning faction.
Yeah.
Because they're willing to go in there and take and, burn it all down.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, like in the symbology of it, like eagle and serpent are both prey, and one hides in the bushes or in a tree and get you. Surprise attack. You never see it coming. And the other one is, you see him. Yep. He's up there and he's spreading his wings nice and big. You see that nice big shadow before he freaking comes in and claws your head off. Yep. But they're both out to get you. And I again, observationally, not knowing anything about it, if I was going to attribute those to, like, there's just a lot of people that are not either of those things. We are just trying to go through life, and you got some snakes out there that are gonna freaking sneak up on you and hit you with that venom, and you're not gonna know what happened to you. They're that boa constrictor drop out of a tree and just you're dead. And then there's other folks who are like, that is obviously the bad guy. I can see him. He's way up there. I can't get to him, but he can get to me. Yeah. And so I don't know. I want to look into it. I was trying to do some research into like the Jesuits and the Freemasons and all that kind of stuff, but that crap is just so far over my head and so complicated, and just so many families and Italian names and Medici this, and I was like, I don't know, dude.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, I've tried to get into it, but yeah, it's just a lot, man. It's like you got to have fucking charts with names and tying
scattergraphs and stuff.
Who's the nephew of this guy who married the queen of that, and it's just like this whole hodgepodge. But again, like I always just default to like, hey, it's probably all manufactured, or at least like enough of a big percentage of history as we know it is manufactured. So it might not all be fake, but enough of it is fake to where you can't really rely on any of that to begin with anyways, right?
Yeah.
So
I was just talking about this to my brother. I was like, because there's like all this like all this history coming out about like World War II and some other things that are a little bit less flattering of everybody than we've been taught in school. And I was telling him, like, I think at least for me, my metric is people are complicated. And nobody is one thing. Nobody is just good or just evil. Everybody is a blend. We're all gray. Everybody's gray. No matter how Darth Vader you are, there's still some Anakin in you. And no matter how Obi-Wan you are, there's dark side right there on the other. Like, nobody just makes the right choice at every moment in everything, right? You can have a terrible dad and an awful whatever, but a great business owner and takes care of his employees and whatever. Like, there's just nobody's one thing. So anytime you get a history lesson where there is just a Superman versus Lex Luthor, it's like, that's not true, period. It's just to manipulate you so you blindly support the one side and blindly oppose the other one. So it's like, the only encouraging thing I'm seeing recently is like more history that's coming out that is like, oh, this guy was a person. He did some bad stuff and he did some good stuff. And you get to kind of decide how you feel about him, because that's how everybody is. They do bad stuff and they do good stuff. And I'm liking seeing some of that history come out, if we're going to like white pill anything. But we have been subjected to some ridiculous freaking propaganda in our schooling, bro. And then to find out that Ghislaine Maxwell's dad owned most of the publishing companies, I go, well, of course. What did you expect?
That's how it goes, man.
That's just how it goes. Like, I mean, finding out that America ever did anything wrong, I was like, oh, egad. You say what? What do you mean Japan surrendered before we dropped the 2 nukes on them? No way.
Yeah. What do you mean they knew that Pearl Harbor was going to happen before it happened?
No way. Yeah, you don't ever learn that part. And yeah, you're just like, Winston Churchill is just a hero of absolutely. And it's like, I'm sure he did a lot of good and that the world is better off for it. But I have no doubts in my mind that he helped coordinate Pearl Harbor. It just so happens that our big cruisers weren't in there on a training mission, just like 9/11. Come on now.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, history as you know it is just manufactured.
Yeah.
Right?
Again,
it doesn't mean like the event didn't happen. Like, did Pearl Harbor happen? Yeah, probably. Right?
Yeah, a lot
like,
of people
sure.
died there.
But like the whole narrative and the timeline and the who's this and the who said what.
It was
who,
not a
like,
surprise attack.
just completely fabricated. It's 80% fabricated. And the 20% that's real, like that's what they latch onto and they create a new narrative around. They're like, yeah, bro, like, and it's like, okay, man, like, was it really 6 million? Did 6 million?
Okay.
Like, I'm just saying, dude. Like, I don't know, bro. Like, I don't know.
Listen, we all ask those questions, okay? But we're just trying to keep our channel alive, okay? I'm not saying we don't ask that question, but I've seen some papers out there that I don't think are AI, and
I'm just saying. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm just.
We're not saying anything. What we are saying is that they said it was a surprise attack. Wasn't. They said weapons of mass destruction. Wasn't. They said 2 weeks to flatten the curve. It wasn't. They said Hitler killed himself. He didn't. So liars gonna lie.
Eagle faction for you, bud.
Eagles, bubba.
They said incubator babies. Yep, you're right. Incubator babies too, man. That was another one.
They don't
Anyways,
exist.
what is this? We're an hour and a half almost. Hey, we went a little long today for you guys. We're here for you.
We're here for you guys. We do it so you don't have to. I guess. I don't know. I got no chat on my side. I got like just a couple things.
Yeah, chat's going off. Chat's always going off.
Thank you guys for participating in the chat. We love to see it. Well, we love to see some of it. Yeah.
All right, that's it. I got to get off here.
Yeah.
Time to go.
Bye-bye.
Everybody,